This is my wife's MacBook Air M2. We bought it back in February this year and she has been using it for about 6 months now. So here's what I think about it. We bought this literally just a few weeks before the MacBook Neo was released. And I gotta say, I absolutely do not regret buying the Air because I genuinely think that it's a better laptop in almost every single way. But what do I mean by that? Well, as soon as the MacBook Neo came out, we bought one in that nice citrus color. Separate video on that right over here. And I asked my wife, so which one do you like more? Which one would you like to keep, the MacBook Air M2 or the MacBook Neo? And she said that, look, well, I absolutely love the citrus color. The MacBook Air just feels nicer. It feels a bit more premium, more well put together. So I asked her, okay, but why do you say that it feels more premium? And she said, look, I don't know, it just does. And honestly, I have to agree with her. So I asked her to lend me her MacBook Air M2 and I used it together with the MacBook Neo for a couple of weeks just so I can form an opinion. And I gotta say, guys, every single time when I switched from the MacBook Neo to the MacBook Air, it just felt a little more refined. It felt nicer. Now, of course, I also have my own MacBook Air, which is the M4 13-inch, which is literally the same exact MacBook. It's just that this is in sky blue and it comes with the M4 chip instead of the M2. But physically, they're the same. So if you're wondering whether the M2 Air has aged well, that's a pretty good sign already. Now, compared to the MacBook Neo, which I should be having right over here, but I don't because I actually ended up returning it after a month. Yeah, the Air has a noticeably nicer display. The bezels are actually much thinner than the ones on the MacBook Neo. The colors are a bit richer and the anti-reflective coating is just significantly better, especially if you're using it near a window or, you know, out and about. Now, yes, the Air does actually have a notch, which you can see right here, and I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of, whereas on the Neo, you don't get a notch, so hey, I guess there's a bonus point for the Neo. Performance is also better on the MacBook Air, which isn't too surprising considering that the Neo is actually powered by an iPhone chip. Now, yes, the MacBook Neo has slightly better single-core performance when compared to the M2. But overall, the MacBook Air M2 just feels faster overall, and especially once you start multitasking, you can definitely feel that difference. And I gotta say, guys, I would notice that difference. I don't know, the MacBook Neo would just randomly take an extra second or so for random tasks. Like, for example, if I were to open Safari, the MacBook Neo would usually hang for a second, but this guy just does it instantly. It is a bit faster. As for similarities, both the MacBook Neo and the MacBook Air have fantastic keyboards. I think they're the same keyboard and I absolutely love it. So if we go to apple.com, yeah, you can also tell it's super fast, the keyboard is easy to type on, and yeah, this is a great experience. And another thing that I loved using while I had both of these machines is Tenorshare's PDNob, the sponsor of today's video. PDNob is a simple yet powerful PDF editor for both Mac and Windows. And if you regularly deal with PDFs, whether they're contracts, invoices, study materials, manuals, or forms, PDNob gives you all of the essential tools in one single place. Let me just show you how the UI looks. So this is the home page, and I gotta say, this is super easy to use, it's super fast, and it gives you a lot of options. Like, you can edit text and images, you can fill out forms, add or remove watermarks, and rearrange pages in just a few clicks. It also makes it extremely easy to convert documents to and from PDF, just using this button right here. And you can also combine multiple PDFs into one or create brand new PDFs whenever you need them. And one of the most useful additions is the built-in AI toolkit. It can summarize lengthy documents, translate PDFs into other languages, and even rewrite selected text, and that's quite cool. And the best part of PDNob is the fact that it doesn't feel bloated. The interface is clean and everything just responds super quickly, and that's exactly what I want from my PDF editor. I don't want 1,000 features. No, I want it to be fast. And since this is my wife's MacBook and she works in pediatric dentistry, let me just open up one of her PDFs, which I have right here. And as you can tell, this is extremely smooth. Sorry for the teeth pictures, but yeah, I guess that's what she works with. But yeah, as you can tell, everything is extremely smooth. And if you'd like to give PDNob a try, you'll find the link in the pinned comment and the video description. But now let's go back to the MacBook Air and talk about battery life, because that's one of the biggest reasons that I still recommend it today. Battery life is amazing on this. But first, let's check battery health. So if we go to the battery tab, battery health, and wow, take a look at that. My wife took good care of this MacBook and it's still at 100% battery health. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, for my testing, I would get around 13 hours of light to medium usage, and my wife confirmed that. It's around 12 to 13 hours, and that's amazing. And fun fact, if you're wondering how much the MacBook Neo would last me, well, only about 10 hours. And for reference, my M4 MacBook Air, which I have just right here, lasts for around 15 hours. Well, my 16-inch M4 MacBook Pro gets around 18 to 20 hours. That thing is a beast, but then again, it has like a twice as large battery than this guy, so it makes sense. Now let's talk about build quality, and this is exactly what you would expect from Apple. It's incredibly solid. And it's so thin, like it's one of the thinnest MacBooks ever made. It is actually thinner than the MacBook Neo, and if you put them side by side, you can definitely tell the difference. And trust me, I've used both the Neo and this, and the Air just feels so much thinner and nicer to use. It's not lighter, they're actually the same weight, but this feels nicer. This is also running macOS Tahoe, 26.5.1, which is the latest one. And yeah, let's just do a real world test. So you've already seen apple.com, it loads up instantly. If we go to macrumors.com as well. Yeah, let me just accept the cookies, and as you can tell, it's extremely fast. And if we go to YouTube, so I have one of my videos loaded up here, and as you can tell, today I'll show you why. But here's a quick spoiler, it's actually the last MacBook to support upgradable RAM. Now, the reason why I'm calling this... Yeah, this works fantastic. Everything feels just as fast as you would expect it to. And as you can tell, the speakers are actually very, very good. While I'm on YouTube, let me also do a quick speaker test. Yeah, the speakers sound fantastic, but I gotta say, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, the Neo sounds a bit better. It's not as loud and the mids are so-so, but the Neo has so much more bass than the MacBook Air, and that surprised me. But the question is, who should actually buy an M2 MacBook Air in 2026? Well, honestly, if you're a student, it's one of the easiest recommendations that I've ever made in my life. Just get this. It's thin, it's completely silent because it doesn't have a fan. The battery lasts for days, not just a day, for days. And performance is more than enough for browsing, office work, coding, photo editing, whatever. It's more than fast enough. It's also an excellent travel laptop. It weighs in at just 1.2 kilograms or 2.7 pounds for my American friends. So you barely notice it in your backpack. Like seriously, you forget that you have it on you. My wife takes this MacBook to work almost every single day. Like I had to ask, hey, where do you have a day when you're not gonna use it so I can actually film it? And today was the day, so yeah. But the thing is, it's one of those laptops that you don't have to think about. You just open the lid, it wakes up instantly, you do your work, you close it, and you're done. And thanks to the battery life, my wife doesn't even have to bring the charger with her to the clinic anymore. She just charges it, I don't know, once a week, which is insane. Now, is the M2 MacBook Air perfect? No, not quite. The one model that I would avoid in 2026 is the base 8GB version, which is the one that I have right here. Let me just show you. You might have seen this before, but yeah, this is the 8GB version. Now, the thing is, while I do not recommend grabbing the 8GB version, this actually made the comparison with the MacBook Neo much easier and more fair, as they both have 8GB of RAM. But even so, the M2 Air still felt a bit faster. The thing is, macOS has become more demanding over the years, and if you're planning to keep this laptop for another, I don't know, 4 to 5 years, I would definitely spend a little more and get the 16GB version model instead. Don't get me wrong, 8GB is still fine for very light use and browsing the web and whatnot. But if you're editing large 4K projects every day or doing heavy 3D work, then you'll probably want a MacBook Pro instead, or I don't know, an M4 MacBook Air with 16GB. Either way, for the vast majority of people, the M2 MacBook Air is more than capable enough, and it has more than enough performance, even with 8GB of RAM. But since Apple is not selling them brand new anymore, you'll probably be buying a used or refurbished one. And before buying one, I would check 3 things. First up, the battery life. Now you can get super lucky like we did and, you know, snatch one with 100% battery life, but that's very rare. But honestly, anything above 85 to 90% is perfectly fine. But if it's less than 85%, I would stay away because it's gonna degrade, and in a couple of years you'll be at like 75 to 80%, which is not that good anymore. Second, make sure that activation lock has been removed. And finally, if possible, again, try to aim for the 16GB RAM version. Even if it costs a little more money, it'll age much better than this guy. So let's sum it all up. Which one should you buy in 2026? The MacBook Neo or the M2 MacBook Air? Well, let's go category by category. First up, the display. MacBook Air M2. Performance. MacBook Air M2, even if they both have 8GB of RAM. What about battery life? Again, MacBook Air. What about speakers? Well, I would actually give that one to the MacBook Neo. And the thing is, if I were spending my own money, which I was, and both laptops were at the exact same price and similar condition, I would choose the M2 MacBook Air without hesitation. However, since you cannot find these things brand new anymore, and if you find an M2 MacBook Air that has been heavily used, I would then probably lean towards the Neo. But the thing is, price also makes a huge difference. If you find an M2 MacBook Air for $400, while the Neo is like $600 to $700, then again, I would go back to recommending the M2 MacBook Air. So it's all about price. But honestly, in most cases, just go for the M2 MacBook Air. It's just a nicer machine overall. So yes, even in 2026, I still think that the M2 MacBook Air is one of the best value Macs that you can buy today, especially if you find a good deal on a 16GB version. It's just a nicer machine overall, and that's it. Either way, if you have an M2 MacBook Air or the MacBook Neo, let me know in the comments down below how it's been holding up for you. And as always, this was Dave on Tech signing out, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!